Hello and welcome back to Choice Bits of Bliss. I just realized that I've got some more photos sitting here in my frame and that just goes against what I'm trying to do today. I wanted to do something very different and talk about photos because I've had comments about my photos looking so good. I'm sorry. I've got schmutz over here on my uh, mat and just realized that I need to clean that up because I was working on something last night. Anyway, sorry for the crinkly noise and the extra, all of that, but that's life. And I think that you'll forgive me. Anyway, let's talk about these pictures. So I wanted to do something to kind of drive home a point. So I've laid out some pretty papers that I just enjoy looking at. This paper here, a few weeks ago, I think I told you, I just couldn't cut into it yet. I just still need to look at it. It makes me happy. And I have displayed it in a way that is going to help demonstrate. That's the word I want to use. To help demonstrate creating focal composition and a vignette. And that is what we're going to be talking about today, creating interesting photos. So as you're looking at this, you're watching me in two-dimensional. And that's, I put my hands in there to show you, you're able to see depth and you're able to see a flat surface. And then by showing movement, that creates that 2D, 3D effects. And a photo it compacts all of that and you have a very one-dimensional image. But we use shadow and light to help define the lines, the depth that is there in that image that's present. I did not make notes. This is off the cuff, and I'm going to miss some probably important points, but this is very informal. We're just going to talk. We're just going to chat. Don't look at my photos and think, oh my gosh, I could never make that. Stop. Comparison is the thief of joy. What I can do is give you some pointers and help you start thinking. If you already take amazing photos, you don't need this. But if you're looking at your photos and thinking, I wish I could. I wish I could take better photos. Why am I not taking better photos? It's a skill that anybody can learn. I promise you. Now, in saying that, there are those who have a natural artistic eye. My husband is one of those people. We can be standing in the same spot, taking a photo of the same scene, and his will often look better than mine. Now, is it because he's taller than me? That's what I tell myself. He's not better than me. He's just taller than me, and I can't control that. Only God can control that. So I have to kind of like boost myself up. But he does. He really actually does have a natural artistic eye about composition. But there are things that we can learn about composition that helps us create a more interesting photo. So let's get into that. First of all, we have our papers splayed out so that you can see bits of each one, and you can see how each one lends to the overall effect of our top one. This is our inspiration piece. These pieces back here support our inspiration piece. Now, when we are creating a vignette in our home, we do the same thing. We create with color, and we create with texture, and we create with dimension, using different heights, different sizes. We use all of these elements in design to create those little spots of interest in our homes. We're going to do that with a photo. So let's build our photo. We're going to zoom in a little bit. Let's try to do this. Okay, let's start building our composition. First thing I'm going to do is correct my background. I'm going to remove the mat. And give us, I'm going to have to get out another thing because I've got smuts up here that I didn't know that was up here. Because I haven't moved that mat in forever. Anyway, we are creating our vignette, our photograph. The next thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit of interest by putting some twine down. Now I could put it up like that and it looks okay, but if I lay it down like this, and what if I twirled the thread around like that? This starts drawing your eye toward the center, but it's not in the center, because if I put this in the center, we lose some of that interest. One of the rules of photography is your focal point, the thing that you're focusing on and that's you're taking a photograph of, needs to be off center. It can be in any part of one of the thirds of your focal point. So this is our rectangle. I need to be away from center. Next, I'm going to add, this is an old embossing tool that I've had forever. And the fact that it's got this natural wood barrel just lends to some of the tones that are in here without hitting this yellow. It just adds a natural wood grain to it. And then we're going to lay these here. And I'm being mindful about what I'm laying down, how I'm placing it so that it's visible in a one-dimensional the word that just left my brain. I had it and then it was gone. Anyway, let's move on. I'm going to pause and then add in something else. I looked up and saw on my shelf across from me that I have this printers. This is an old print type. And I found it at an antique store and wanted it because it is the initial for my last name, and thought that I would add this in this bottom corner to add weight to this photo. So it gives you something for where your eyes can go. Now, you can still see all of the colors, and then you can still see what we're focusing on, which is our inspiration piece. And that's how we start building a photo. Now, I'm going to go over some photos. I'm going to keep this down. I'm going to remove all of these other pieces because that's just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to add my pumpkin in because it just makes me happy. And we're going to start looking at some photos. Now, I have printed out a lot of photos to start working with my collection obsession and my through the seasons. Those collections for this month and next month are probably going to just kind of blend in and out of each other because it's all fall related products. And let's go through some photos. So first of all, when you look at my photos, please understand I am a practicing photographer since 2006. And before 2006, I was studying. So I've been doing this for a long time, almost 20 years. Anyway, this photo, we were in Babcock State Park. This is in West Virginia. And this is iconic. If you pull up any photo of Babcock State Park, you're going to see this watermill. It is very, very, very iconic. We were there in early spring, so things are just beginning to bud out. The trees have, I mean, seriously, just beginning to bud out. You can barely see green up there, and they've got that fuzzy look to them because it's early spring. And it's beautiful. I love the texture. I love the different colors. I love the highlights and the lowlights. That's all part of photography. And that's what we use when you're composing a photo to create that dynamic image. So, have I touched up these photos? Yes. And at some point in time, we will go through and talk about what I do to photos to enhance them. And the reason why I do enhance them is because if you are shooting in RAW, and a lot of our phones will shoot in RAW, it is a file format that takes away a lot of the coloration and we'll look at our image on our cameras or our phones, and it looks nothing like what it looked like to our natural eye. The reason for that is with RAW, you can add in touches everywhere and you don't lose the information. So this is digital. Remember, everything is created digitally and it's information, it's pixels. If this is a JPEG image and you'd mess with any portion of it, it starts degrading over time. The more that you mess with it and save it, more that you make changes, save it, you're losing pixelation, you're losing information. With a raw image, you're not losing any of that information. So there's the benefit of using and shooting in RAW. That's RAW file format. So yes, I go back after I shoot an image and I add in a little bit of saturation. It's very easy to overdo it, so I'm really careful about that. You can make a photo become really garish and too colorful. So balance those issues. I add in a little bit of warmth. I add in when I say little, I'm talking about like moving the slider up to about 5, 2, 3, 5. Occasionally I'll go all the way up to 8 or 10, but very rare. I'm just barely touching those sliders to add back in the color that I saw with my natural eye. I bump up a little bit of saturation, a little bit of warmth. I will bump down highlights and move up my shadows so that, because when you print a photo, like these dark spaces, those are just black holes. And I want to be able to see that there was grass there. I want to be able to see these rocks, the definition in those rocks that built the wall here. So that's why I'm very, very careful about adding back in those colors and the depths. The reason I bump down my highlights is because on certain days, like when it's cloudy, you lose all sky definition. So another thing that I could do is just crop this out or cut it out so that it's not, because this is distracting, this big white up here. So when I trim this, I'm probably going to trim it here so that the focus is all down here, not on this big white expanse up here in the corner. Okay, this is another angle. So I'm shooting downstream and then we walked over here. Right here is a walkway that goes to, it's like a bridge. Like this is another image, this is where the shadows kind of do away with details. But I was there, so I have the memory of that bridge. And I can see the pylon there that's supporting the bridge walkway. But take different angles. Take different angles. And I think those are beautiful photos. Another thing that we're going to talk about is take photos of things that you love. So I love when I start decorating for fall. Take photos of the things that you love. You're going to see a lot of that. Now, these photos are significant because, and this is considered macro photography, because this is a maple tree that we went to Alabama to, like in the town that I lived in Alabama, they have a flea market every Saturday. And we had gone up here in New York to a, gosh, is my brain going blank? Over Simple Words. Flitter. A place that sells trees and plants. My gosh. Anyway, we had gone there to look for a Japanese maple. The trees they were selling were tiny, and they wanted, now it was a little bit bigger than that, but they wanted over $200 for this tiny, tiny little tree. And so I said, we're not doing that. And I told my husband, I said, look, the next time we go to Alabama, let's go to that flea market and we'll buy some trees. So we did. And here's the funny thing. We bought a willow tree, this sugar maple, 2 Japanese maples for $50. Kid you not. Anyway, so we've got it supported to kind of straighten it. And this is its first year in the ground, and it's got color. These were taken just the other day, and we've already got some color. I'm so tickled with this. That's going to be on my brain that I can't think of what it's called when you go to, I'm so sad now. Take pictures of things that give you joy. This past week, the location that I was working at, the maintenance guy plants sunflowers in front of the building at the employee entrance. And it just is a pop of happy when you walk up to that building. I loved it. And I'm so glad I took these pictures because the very next day he had trimmed them way, way back. Oh, couldn't believe it. But I was tickled to death that I had these photos. Take pictures of things that make you happy and commemorate where you are. We're going to talk about that. I use Google Photos, and I'm going to show you how I use Google Photos, but I just want you to see. So a lot of times I'll take a snapshot just because I want to remember where I am. So I leave on my location services. And now I have this commemorated where I was. I'm also commemorating that when I came out to get in my car, so this is my admin vehicle, that I could see the beginning of the sunrise as it was reflecting on those heavy, heavy clouds. So this was actually the first shot. This was the second shot. And as I was leaving the parking lot for work, you cannot see it in this picture, but I'm telling you with my naked eye, oh, this view was so beautiful. Off in the distance, you can see those mountain ranges. I was in the Adirondacks. You can see these beautiful mountain ranges back here and the sun coming up over, and there was this little bit of mist. Oh, heavens to Betsy. And you can see my mirror and I was shooting out of my car window. But makes me tickled, makes me happy. I'm commemorating us buying my mom's. That's it. Just commemorate those moments that give you joy. My dorky dog So I don't know if you can see it back here in the background. She jumps up there to look at uh, the Postal Service employee as they drive up to deliver our mail. So under here is a radiator bench protecting her from the radiator. She gets up there and props up in that window like she owns the place. So my husband keeps these curtains open so that she can see out. And then when I say her name, she looks at me like, what? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Makes me, I love her. I love her. All right. Now we are going to talk about creating a shot. So when you are composing, what drew my eye to this shot was the contrast between this yellow tree and this red barn. And this is one of those photos that if I had started messing with the saturation too much, it would have messed up the clouds. Because, look, I mean, it is a very cloudy day. It is frequently cloudy up here. So I have to keep balance what's going on up at the top with what's going on at the bottom. And it would have made this grass like neon. So I have to be very, very careful about balancing out the color in a photo. So this is in post-processing when we're talking about balancing out and what programs we use to play with these different elements in a photograph. But what drew me was the color. I love that. That speaks fall. We were in another location. I was in another city, and this is the skyline. And this is some art that they had built with, they put them in ditches and they let water flow through a little more freely. Whatever those things are called. But they used the old ones and built art. So that's something that's just interesting to look at. I'm going to try to speed this up so that we're not sitting here talking about this all day long, but this is a farm that's a state park here in New York. I think it's called Knox Farm State Park, and this barn is one of the iconic pieces to there that, and then there's this walkway under this umbrella of trees that is just gorgeous. Gorgeous. And when I go back and scroll through my photos and see just the things that we go see and do around here in 1 month, it is amazing. It is amazing. But I love these photos. I can't talk about it too much or I'll start squalling. This is photos of the first time I baked a pecan pie. So I wanted to make sure that you could see in the background some of the ingredients that I put in my pie. I like the contrast of my white butter dish against this, the wood grain of the chopping block. And so I was very intentional about putting the ingredients and, juxtaposed with my pie. Those are the things I'm thinking about when I'm taking a photo. I pay attention to how things are set up and how it looks when I'm composing. Now, if I'm taking a picture of nature and I don't get to choose how everything looks, then I start thinking about what angle I'm shooting from to create that composition. So this is in my neighborhood. This is the fire and the vibrance the trees get. Can you believe that I can see this in the fall? This is right here, like right around the corner from me. When we're walking our dogs, I'm constantly taking pictures in the fall because our neighbors have beautiful, beautiful trees. We have beautiful trees in our yard, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Now, these were all printed. And wait a minute, let me tell you this. I haven't even touched these photos. This is straight out of my phone. Can you believe that? And they're printed off of my Epson 400 Picture Mate. Beautiful. Beautiful. And I will tell you this. The Epson Picture Mate automatically adds in. It boosts the color saturation automatically. So that's another thing you have to be careful of when you're adding in. So this is from my big camera. And when I'm adding in saturation, I have to be careful because I know my Epson automatically adds in a little bit of color saturation. They make colors a little more vibrant. So these are my dorky dogs. This is my yard. This is my yard. And I stinking love it. And my goofy dogs, I love those stupid dogs. Love them. They don't care. But I do. I love them. And when I am creating, so this is one of the trees in my yard. And when I'm creating a shot, I'm paying attention to how everything lines up. I wanted to show the sun coming through the trees, making those shadows. And then just how my porch vignette looks when we decorate it for fall. We're talking about composition. And how the weight here leads your eye. Composition. You're paying attention to how everything works together in the photograph. We're going to switch gears and talk about, it's still composition. So here we are in Watkins Glen. We're down in this ravine, this chasm in the earth, and they have waterfalls. And I wanted to show how I have, so these other photos are taken with my phone. This is taken with my phone. These next two photos were taken with my camera. But I'm just showing you how I am lining things up. So this is with my phone, just showing the process. And this is the results. Now, should I stop there because that's a really good photo? Nope. Change angles. Change your angles and change how, when you zoom in on the photograph. One of the things I wanted to show, because this is super early in the morning, the sun is just now getting down into that ravine, is that there's mist back here in the background. Because it's early, early morning and it's still rising. The sun hasn't burned it off yet, and it's just an unspeakable, joyful moment. Sometimes moments just happen. So years and years and years ago, we have a friend who has a farm, and Sean's girls love, now this is down in Alabama, they love horses, and so I set up a time that they could go ride horses at my friend's farm, and they were riding horses, having a great time. This is a posed shot, and then this just happens. You can see how much she loves horses. She just loves being around them. And she's being so gentle, talking to it and just loving on it. And that horse is loving being loved on. This, having your camera ready for those moments is just phenomenal. Okay, I have talked enough. I think I've shown enough examples of shooting things that make you happy, shooting things that are intentional, and then shooting things that are accidental. Now I'm going to show you about Google. So when I'm going into Google, This, I wanted to look for this barn. I can use the location because I can type in Knox Farm State Park. Because I have my location services on, it's going to pull up things that I have shot at that location. I can type in red and it'll bring up everything that is red. I know that we went in October. I can type in October in my search term and it will bring up October. So that I did that. I knew we went in October and it will bring it up. Now I'm going to scroll and just show you the beauty and my dogs and my neighborhood and my living room. This is another location that we went to in October. This is 5 minutes from my house. We are able to see the Niagara River 5 minutes from my house. This is called the Whirlpool State Park. It is right here where I live. And we were sitting there watching the sunset over this, and it's just absolutely unspeakably gorgeous. There's my husband with the dogs. We try to take them with us when we're walking as much as possible. This right here, this is at my work. This was early in the morning. And I was trying to, do some artistic things here with the yellow stripes in the road. And so that's where I have enhanced it, and I didn't like it. I went too far. It's easy to go too far. And then guess what? The bus comes. So I was still standing there, so I snapped a picture of the bus. So those things this is what I wanted to talk about in this series. We went to that park a couple of days, actually, that week. This is the kind of stuff I wanted to talk to you about today, about photos. Don't compare yours to others. Just get better. Just take the time and practice, because it's digital. You can take pictures and delete and take pictures and delete, and no one will ever know. But when you're out there, go to the place where you think that you're going to see things that will amaze you. If that place is in your yard, go to your yard, walk, and take photos. Take macros. Our phones take amazing macros now. And that's where you get really, really close to a subject so that you can see those finite, those little tiny details in a leaf or in a flower. Take those. Zoom out. Take large landscape photos. Just keep practicing. Enjoy the process. I get so much peace and solitude behind the lens of a camera. I cannot explain it. I get completely lost. And a lot of my photos go to the trash. And I have almost 20 years of experience. It's okay to not get the best photo, but be present in those moments that are happening so that when a magical moment happens like this, your camera's ready and you can grab it. For me, the photos, the stories that I tell about our lives, this, as much as I love paper, is secondary. It's the photographs and the stories that are first and foremost. Because even if I didn't have pretty paper, I would probably still work at documenting those stories. This video has been long and rambling, but I wanted to go through and share with you some ideas, because I get a fair amount of comments about photos, specifically my photos. So yes, these photos I've shared with you today, they're beautiful. This is an example of a macro. And I'm fully aware that I take good photos. But I've been practicing this for a long, long time. And these are some things that I'm going to be scrapbooking this coming month. And you will see more. You'll hear more about the stories, about the details of those days, why I took the photo. Um, excuse me. But I first wanted to share with you just the process of creating that vignette, creating composition. That as long as your photo's in focus and you've got an interesting composition, you have won half the battle. I promise you. Come back. We will chat again soon.